nervous because I'm here now.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm Glenn Martin here with my co-host James Haskell. And in this episode, we are going to discuss the reports from Josina Anderson and ESPN that Dez Bryant is soon to be a Baltimore Raven. They're reporting that apparently he's willing to sign to the practice squad, at least initially. At least that's what reports are. So, wow. I mean, that's exciting. I mean, the fact that a guy like Dez Bryant, a guy that had a career like he has, sure, he's doing anything he can to get back in the league. But the fact that he is willing to accept a practice squad deal, that's pretty cool. It says something about his willingness to get back on the field and his want to just to play again. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I love it. I can't wait to, obviously Dez isn't going to be out there immediately making an impact, but I don't think it's going to take very long for Dez to be off that practice squad. I think this is just to give him some runway, right?
Okay.
Just get some runway, get your legs under you, get some live action, in pads, in practice, with other guys that are hungry. I think this gives him some runway, and I think it's good because it could, when you aren't in action for so long, you come into action. We saw what happened with the Saints where he tore that Achilles real quick. Mm-hmm. Now, he didn't do that in live action. That was just in practice. But I think this is just, one of the reasons is it helps avoid long-term injury, where it's, you remember when Joe went from doing nothing to deciding to lift weights and hurt his back.
Yep.
Right? Like, there's a lot of that happens when you go from doing, even though you are working out, it's not the same. It's hard to simulate football. So I'm excited about the impact of Dez Bryant. I think he can only do one of two things. One, Dez gets on the field, does really well in the red zone as a possession receiver, takes some heat off Hollywood. Or two, he stays on the practice squad and it puts a fire under Miles Boykin, and we don't need Dez to come up. But both of those outcomes are good to me. I love that Eric DeCosta strikes. He knows what we need, and he does not sit on his hands. He doesn't sit on his hands. He's getting to work. I love it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it is it has, I don't see a negative. I mean, it's all positive to me because the fact that they got him on that deal, they can, if they don't like what they see, they can release him and it's no problem. But I think you're right. What they probably did is, I think everybody remembers they had him in for a workout a few weeks back. And when he left without a contract, people thought, well, that's it. That they didn't have interest. But I think what it was is probably more so you mentioned that ramp up period, and Harbaugh mentioned this. He said that he was asked in a few weeks ago, what about the offseason, this odd offseason, would you like to see go forward? Like, would you like to carry on? And he mentioned the ramp up period. He mentioned the importance of that ramp up period to prevent injuries. I think maybe when they had him in for that last workout, maybe the interest wasn't as low as everyone assumed. And maybe it was more so like, look, we like what we see, but we want to see you keep working. Maybe they thought he was a little heavy. Maybe they thought he could improve some area, and maybe they said, keep working. That way they don't have to sign him. And then if he gets that injury you mentioned because of inactivity, that they're not on the hook. Well, now they probably saw he worked out. He's improved his, maybe lost a couple pounds, maybe improved some acceleration. And maybe they're like, wow, okay, so this guy can handle the workload. Maybe they sent him home with some sort of a workout plan or some sort of we just don't know. So I think that this has been in the works. I don't think that they, just called him, yesterday. I think this has been in the works for a long time. And I think you're right. I think if anything, it lights a fire under the rest of the guys, because we talked about it with Matt and we talked about it before. Miles Boykin plays smaller than his size. He does not play like a 6'4", 225-pound guy. He just doesn't. He plays much smaller than that. Well, Dez is the opposite. I mean, this guy, he can high point a ball and say what you want. Even if he doesn't separate well, what he does do is we've seen a lot of teams employ the get up in the face of the receivers, bring a blitz, and play one-on-one coverage on the outside. Well, as Josh Harris mentioned, the place that's vulnerable in that situation is the outsides. The outside receivers have to win one-on-one battles in those situations to make those guys put two deep safeties back in the back, to make them get off the receivers a little more, to open up some of the underneath and middle or intermediate routes. I just think it's a win-win because he's going to be a guy that if you leave him one-on-one coverage, especially in the red zone, why not throw it up to him? I mean, is there a better red zone option? If he's signed today, is he instantly the best red zone option? I mean, maybe Mark Andrews, I give you that, but it's between them two, right?
Yeah, it has to be, right? As far as receivers go, like true wide receivers, I think he already walks in. Walking around the street, Dez Bryant's a better red zone target based on his build, his natural ability you talked about to use his body, to use his physicality and high point the ball. He attacks the ball. He's been doing that since birth,
Yep.
right? He came out of the womb high pointing a football, right? Like Dez Bryant just does that, right? So, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. This one to me seemed like destiny. One of those things where like it was all about timing. The draft didn't work out. You know, we wanted to get him. We ended up getting Michael Crabtree. He spurned us for someone else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then of course, you know, he comes in again. We didn't like it immediately. Finally, it's just look, our paths are crossing at the right time. We need him. He needs us. It's a match made in heaven. The timing just wasn't right. That's all.
That's right. That's right. Now let me ask you this though, Jimmy. What are your expectations? Because I don't want to, fool the fans and make them think that we're expecting this guy to come in and be a Pro Bowler. That's not the case at all. That we could not see him, even if he is signed today. We might not ever see him, and it's very possible we couldn't see him for a few weeks. But so what are your expectations? What are you hoping to get, and what are you expecting to get out of Dez?
So this is what I think we will get out of Dez Bryant. I mean, I think as the season goes on, I think he'll play. He'll be bumped up to the 53-man roster. I think he'll contribute on big downs in big moments. And one of the things I think is interesting is the combination. You know, he has this ability to catch 50-50 balls of him and Lamar Jackson, where Lamar can extend the plays and maybe in doing so help Dez create that separation based on the amount of time that Lamar can hold the ball, make the defense make a decision, give Dez a little bit more time. But this is what I can guarantee you right now. If Dez is on the field when we're in the playoffs, he will make a big play in the red zone in the playoffs for us that will be memorable moving forward. I can guarantee you that. And that's the only moment we need him for. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, if he does nothing else, it will be worth I mean, there's really no risk, but it will be worth the signing of Dez Bryant.
Yeah.
What are your expectations?
Well, I'm kind of unsure about what I expect to see. I think what is exciting is that he's, we've been talking a lot about his ability to high point the ball and 50-50 balls and winning all those. But I think also what he brings, and I think a lot of people forget, when he came into the league, he was a pretty darn good punt returner and a guy that's great with the ball in his hands. Not a speeder, not a burner, but hard to bring down because of his size and strength. So I think that they could also use him in that role, get the ball to him quick and see if he's got any of that left. Now, it's hard to know after an Achilles injury and all that if he still has that kind of stuff, that kind of ability in him. But like you mentioned, the low risk. The only thing that I guess would worry me is but then again, you don't want a guy. I was going to say if it starts to knock the confidence or take snaps away from guys like Duvernay and potential snaps from Prochet going forward. But really, if competition doesn't improve everyone's game, then you probably don't want that kind of guy on your team anyway. Like, in other words, if Miles Boykin wilts under this pressure of having Dez Bryant right behind him in the practice squad, then you probably don't want Miles Boykin on your team anyway. So I don't really see a negative in this, so yeah, I'm happy. And I think that the possibilities are I don't know, exciting, I guess I would say.
Yeah, this is the last thing I'll say on this here. Think about this. Coming into the season, our 1, 2, 3 was in your mind was Hollywood, Miles, Willie Snead, right?
Yeah.
I think that it's fair. I think that, by the end of the season, we're talking about a different 1, 2, 3 that to me on paper is a lot more to deal with. You're still talking about Hollywood. You're talking about Devin Duvernay and Dez Bryant. Based on what I've seen from Devin Duvernay and the progression of Hollywood this year and his versatility, he's doing more in his route running, and I think he'll continue to improve as far as yak yards go. But the physicality and the decisiveness of Devin Duvernay, and then we know who Dez Bryant is, even at a diminished at a diminished point at this point in his career. Those three sound a lot more appealing to me than the first three that I mentioned. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, just because of the potential, I know he's an older guy, but there's still the potential that he could do things that other guys can on this team. So let me ask you this one last question though, because also in that report that Josina Anderson put out there about Dez coming is at the very end, it said this after they expressing that they have no interest in Antonio Brown or passing on Antonio Brown. So do you believe that part? And are you okay with the fact that this could mean no Antonio to Baltimore?
Yeah, you know what? I'm okay with it on a couple reasons. I agree. So I put stock in that.
Okay.
I think that Antonio is shut down. I think for a couple reasons. One, we still have cap flexibility at this point with the signing of Ngakwe.
Mm-hmm.
We still have some room. I know we're up against it, but we still have some room there. And then Dez is virtually, I mean, think about what I'm trying to say is that we still have upside in bringing in Dez, but the flexibility that we maintain, because you've said it before, people think that AB is going to come in on a minimum.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Right.
I don't believe that to save my life.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't. He's gonna want all sorts of he's gonna want some sort of guarantee and a ton of incentives. That's what he's gonna want. If he doesn't get it, he'll go somewhere else. So I guess between him and AB, that to me, the reward is not Antonio Brown's better than Dez Bryant, obviously, but the risk is so much higher.
Yes.
That I love this signing. I really, mark my words, Dez Bryant is going to make a memorable play in the red zone when we need it in the playoffs, and it will be something that we remember as we march on into the playoffs. I feel it, man. I'm telling you,
Well,
Dez is a gamer.
That. He's just a gamer. There's no doubt. He's a competitor. I love that about him. And now he has desperation. He saw what it's like, life without the NFL. Probably didn't like it. Probably wasn't a fan of the possibilities of getting a job that's outside of football, which I don't know how he is with his finances, but I'm sure that eventually, the money runs out. So I think he'll be on his best behavior. I think he'll be, because there were some issues with Dez in the past of complaining about coaches, complaining about targets and stuff like that. But I don't think we'll see that with him. But I guess we have to wait and see. But either way, I'm excited. I'm happy to see what, because as you mentioned, Eric DeCosta said he's not done. So I don't think this is the final move that we've seen from the Ravens. So keep watching. Make sure you subscribe, give us a like, and we'll be back soon.
See you.